American Chop Suey, Chapter 13. I used to think that all the spooky stuff about Friday the 13th was just a pile of baloney, but now I'm getting my own personal introduction to what can happen. It's October, and so far things have been going pretty good, better than I ever expected. Me and Freak are like this unit, and even Mrs. Donnelly says she is starting to get used to us, which is her way of admitting that Freak is about twice as smart as she is, and for sure he's read more books. She keeps saying stuff like, Kevin, you know the answer because you always know the answer. So wouldn't it be nice if someone else got a chance? For instance, your friend Maxwell. Freak goes, he knows the answer, Mrs. Donnelly. Yes, Kevin, I'm sure you're correct because you're always correct. But for a change, I'd really like to hear Maxwell speak for himself. Maxwell? Maxwell Kane? This is dumb because what does it matter if I know the answer? If I don't know, then Freak will tell me and he'll say it in a way I can understand, which is a lot better than Mrs. Donnelly can do. So what I do, I just shrug and smile and wait, because I know she'll get tired of asking and move on to the next. As a matter of fact, I do know the answer. The reason Johnny Tremaine got mad and hateful is because he burned his hand in a stupid accident, and I know about that because Freak has been showing me how to read a whole book, and for some reason, it all makes sense. Where before, it was just a bunch of words I didn't care about. My reading skills tutor, Mr. Meehan, he says stuff like, Max, the tests have always shown that you're not dyslexic or disabled, and this proves it. As you know, my personal opinion has always been that you're lazy and stubborn and you didn't want to learn. So if hanging out with Kevin somehow improves your attitude and your skills, that's great. Keep up the good work. It was Mr. Meehan who had a word with Mrs. Donnelly, and that's why she finally gave up on trying to make me talk in class, and instead she waits until study hall, where she asks me the same questions alone, and I tell her the answers. She still doesn't get it, though, because she always goes, but Maxwell, if you can speak to me, then you can speak to your classmates, right? Wrong. Big difference. I can't explain what it is, except that my mouth shuts up when there's more than one or two people, and a whole classroom full? Yeah, forget it. Okay, you're shy about public speaking, but how does that apply to writing down the answers? If you can read, then you can write, right? Wrong again. The reading stuff Freak helped me figure out by showing how words are just voices on paper. Writing down the words is a whole different story. No matter what Freak says, writing the stuff down is not like talking. My hand feels so huge and clumsy. It's like a pencil is a piece of spaghetti or something and keeps slipping away. Mrs. Donnelly says, okay for now. She's satisfied I can read. But we'll really have to work on this writing thing, won't we, Maxwell? And when she says that, I just nod and look away because inside I'm thinking, forget it, no way. Like Freak says, reading is just a way of listening, and I could always listen, but writing is like talking, and that's a whole other ballgame. Anyhow, what happens first on Friday the 13th? We're in homeroom when this note comes from the principal's office. Maxwell Kane, your presence is requested. Gulp. So Freak and I get up and go to the teacher, says, no, Kevin, you stay here. Mrs. Addison was very specific. Maxwell is to go alone. Freak starts to smart mouth her. Then he changes his mind and he nudges me and whispers, just give him name, rank, and serial number. Deny everything. You aren't back to 1000 hours. We'll organize a search and rescue mission. He offers to lend me his dictionary in case I want to try out any big words on Mrs. Addison. But I'm already so worried about being called in alone. All I can think is they're going to put me back in learning disabled class. I've already decided I'll run away if they do that. I'll go live in the woods somewhere and jump out and scare people. Anyhow, I don't take Freak's dictionary along because my hands are trembly and I might drop it. Or Mrs. Addison might ask me a word and I'll forget how to look it up and prove I'm still a butthead goon. Mrs. Addison is waiting outside her office like she does, and she's trying to smile, but she's not really a smiling kind of person. I can tell this is serious. Whatever it is. Like maybe somebody died. I go, Graham? Is Graham okay? Yes, everybody is fine. Come in and sit down, Maxwell, and please try to relax. Yeah, right. Mrs. Addison is sitting there in her big chair, and she's looking up at the ceiling, and then she's looking at the floor and her hands, and finally, she gets around to looking at me. This is rather difficult, Maxwell. I don't know where to begin. First, let me say we're all very pleased with your progress. It's nothing short of miraculous, and it's almost convinces me you knew how to read at your level all along and were for some reason keeping it a secret. I'm not really hearing what she's saying because there's a lot of little bird fluttering around inside my chest. And it makes me blurt out, you're putting me back in LD, right? Miss Addison comes over and pats me on the shoulder. I can tell it makes her nervous, touching me, but she does it anyway and goes, no, nothing like that. This has nothing to do with school, Maxwell. This is a personal situation. Because if I have to go back to LD class, I won't. I just won't. I'll run away. I will. Maxwell, this is not about your classwork or even about school. This is about your, father. My father, which makes me wish all of a sudden I'd done something wrong and Mrs. Addison was just giving me detention. She takes a deep breath and folds her hands together like she's praying, and she says, "A request has been forwarded to me from the parole board, a request from your father, Maxwell. Your father wants to know if I don't want to hear it." I jump up and cover my eyes, holding my hands real tight. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Don't. What happens when you go nuts in the principal's office? She calls in the school nurse, and the two of them are trying to hug me and calm me down. It's like I'm back in daycare or something. "Maxwell," Mrs. Addison is saying. She's trying to pry my hands away from my ears. "Maxwell, please forget about it. Okay? Forget I said it. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, okay? And I'll make sure of that. I promise. I swear on my honor. He can't make you do anything you don't want to do. I'm going to make that very clear to the parole board and his lawyer. Very clear indeed." Finally, I take my hands off my ears, which wasn't really working because I could still hear everything they said. And big surprise, I'm sitting in the corner of the room, down on the floor with my knees and hunched up. I don't even remember how I got here. It's like I blanked out or something, and the nurse is giving me this cup of water. And the weird thing is, she's crying. "I'm sorry," I say. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't," she says. "I cry easy. Don't you worry about it." I do worry about it, though, because if she's crying, I must have hit her, and I don't remember it, which, if you think about it, is really scary. Who knows what I might do and then not remember it. The worst thing happens later in the cafeteria. Freak has this thing about American chop suey. He loves this stuff. The gooier the better. You'd believe the person so cold could eat so much. You'd never believe a person so small could eat so much. And when he holds up his plate, he always says, "Please, sir, more gruel." And I always say, "It's American chop suey, not gruel." I looked up gruel, remember? And he always goes, "I beg for you, sir, more gruel." And so finally, I go up and get him another helping. When I come back, something is wrong. Freak's face is all red and swollen up, and he's making a huck noise. He can't talk, and all he can do is look at me and try to say something with his eyes, and then I'm running to get the nurse. "Quick, he can't breathe, he can't breathe." Then she's running as fast as me, and she's yelling for someone to call an ambulance. Back in the cafeteria, Freak is turning purple. The nurse grabs him, and she's got this plastic thing she shoves into his mouth, and his eyes are closed up tight, and one of his legs is kicking. I don't know what to do, so I start hopping up and down in one place, and when the kids keep crowding around, I push them back, and the next thing, Freak's face is starting to look pink instead of purple, and he's breathing okay. Right about then, the ambulance comes. I never even heard the siren, and Freak is trying to talk in the croaky voice as they put him on the stretcher. "I'm okay," he keeps saying. "Really, I'm okay. I just want to go home." The deal is, once they call the ambulance, you have to go to the hospital and get checked out. That's a rule. I keep trying to get into the back of the ambulance with him, but they won't let me. Finally, Mrs. Addison has to come out and pull me away until the ambulance leaves with this light going and not the siren. "You've had quite a day, haven't you?" she said, walking me back into school. "It's not me who had quite a day," I say. "Kevin is the one. All he did was try and eat his lunch." Mrs. Addison gives me this look, and then she goes, "You're going to be okay, Maxwell Kane. I'm sure of it now." She's okay for a principal, but for some reason I still can't make her understand that it's not me who had a really bad Friday the 13th. And I swear on the dictionary, if Freak ever tries to eat American chop suey again, I'll dump it on his head or something. End of chapter 13. 14. Cross my heart and hope to die. Graham lets me stay home the next day because Freak is getting out of the hospital. I'm right on the front step when Fair Gwen pulls up in their car. Freak is riding in the back. You can barely see him in the window. He's got his big grin and makes me feel like everything is going to be okay, the way everybody keeps saying. I go, "Is it okay if I carry him inside?" And the Fair Gwen says, "Of course." "He has to rest," she says. "He stays in the house until I say different. Is that understood?" In his room, Freak is right away ordering me around, bring me this and go do that, and you'd never guess who's been sick. And you'd never guess he's even been sick. "A minor incident," he says, "easily corrected by biogenic intervention." Biogenic intervention. "You mean that robot stuff?" Freak goes, "Shh. The Fair Gwen must not know of the plan. That very idea strikes fear into her heart." "Well, it is pretty scary," I say, "getting an operation to give you a whole new body." "I'm not scared," Freak says. "I'm looking forward to it." "So when does this happen?" Freak gets this faraway look and he says, "I'm not sure. Dr. Spivak, she's my doctor. She says maybe a year or two." "But how come you need a new body?" I ask. "How come you can't just stay like you are?" Freak shakes his head like he knows I'm not smart enough to understand. "No one stays like they are," he says. "Everybody is always changing. My problem is I'm growing on the inside but not the out." He doesn't want to talk about it anymore, which is fine with me. And in another couple of days, everything is back to normal, and we're going to school like always, and everything is going real good until Christmas vacation, when, if you'll excuse the expression, all hell breaks loose. I'm in the Down Under trying to get the stupid wrapping paper to cover the stupid presents I got for Graham and Grim. when this shouting starts upstairs. Understand, Grim never yells at Graham, not that I can ever remember. And Graham, well, the worst thing she ever does is cry when she's mad. But somebody sure is yelling up there. And so I sneak upstairs, and I don't even have to put my ear to the door, and that's how loud it is. Over my dead body, you will. That's Graham yelling, and her voice is big and full of tears. Grim's voice isn't nearly as loud, and I open the door a crack to hear whatever it is that's made Graham so mad at him. I have an obligation, he's saying. A man has to protect his family. Not with a gun, Graham yells. Not in this house. I won't have it. Oh, I can't stand it. How could they do this to us? How could they? He fooled him, Grim is saying, just like he fooled Annie, just like he fooled us once upon a time. Never again, though. That man tries to set foot in this house, I aim to shoot him. No guns, Graham says. You don't know about guns. Of course I do. I was in the Army, wasn't I? That was 30 years ago. I know that will happen. I know what will happen. Don't you think I've dreamt about it for the last 8 years? He'll come in here and he'll take that gun away from you, and then he'll do the shooting. By now I figured out who they're talking about, and guess you have too. None other than him, Killer Kane, my father. Maybe they won't let him out, Graham is saying. If they do, they'll give us protection. Sure they will, just like they protected our Annie. Next thing, Graham is crying, and you can tell Grim is trying to make her feel better, going, there, my dear. I know, there. A while later, I hear the cellar stairs creaking. It's Grim, and he knocks on my door. Come on in. Grim comes inside, and for once he doesn't tell me what a rat hole I'm living in, or how it smells like a locker room because I forgot to put my socks in the hamper. He sits on the edge of the bed and folds his hands together. I never think about how old he is because he never acts old, but tonight he's all white and bent and his old skin is saggy. He's about 1,000 years old, and he says, I guess you heard the ruckus. Your grandma gets so upset, bless her heart. Can't abide the idea of violence. Can't say I blame her. Did he escape, I ask? Is that what's happened? Grim shakes his head. He's up for parole. That's dumb. That's so dumb. Grim goes, you hit the nail on the head, son. What I did do, just so you know, I went into a court and made it so he won't be allowed within a mile of this house. If he does try to come here, they'll send him back to prison, and the judge promised me that much. They say maybe you should get a gun. Grim doesn't say anything for quite a while and then goes, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I can't tell your grandma about it, though. It breaks my heart to lie to her, and that's one thing we've never done. I won't tell. Grim is quiet again, and then he stands up from my bed and in this real old, tired voice, he says, everything is going to be okay, Max. I'll make sure of it. But for the next few days, I want you to stay in the house. Promise me you'll do that. Cross my heart, I say. Cross my heart and hope to die. End of chapter 14.